Incredible footage has been released by storm chasers who were tracking the eye of Hurricane Ian as it slammed into the Florida coast and deluged Fort Myers Beach. Footage shot over several hours but neatly edited into a 2.5-minute video catches a stretch of highway close to the beach before the 15-foot storm surge came ashore. Video begins with strong winds blowing and only a small amount of water on the roadway, but it is not long before the entire street is completely flooded with only some hedges and fences still able to peek above the waterline, which at this stage is around 3 to 4 feet. The video then cuts to what can only be described as an inland sea with only the tops of palm trees and the second story of buildings visible. Incredible footage has been released by storm chasers who were tracking the eye of Hurricane Ian as it slammed into the Florida coast and deluged Fort Myers Beach. Initially things don't appear too bad with just a small amount of water on the road. It isn't long before floodwaters from Hurricane Ian begin covering the ground with roads turned in rivers. Massive waves can be seen filling the screen with hardly any recognizable signs of what had been there just hours earlier. As the storm surge progresses, even the camera, which is placed about 20 feet above the ground on a lamppost, is hit by the massive waves which by now are touching the tops of some of the palm trees. The force of the water is so great that one building, said to be a family home, which had been positioned at the edge of a parking lot, is lifted from its very foundations and drifts away, moving across the road. Anything that was built out of wood is unable to survive the tsunami-like conditions, with only those buildings that were built out of brick and concrete left standing. Later in the video, the waves become even rougher as the Gulf of Mexico continues to come ashore and Mother Nature unleashes her wrath. The Gulf of Mexico can be seen completely submersing Fort Myers, with the entire town now underwater. By this stage only the tops of palm trees are visible, with the home that had stood in the parking lot now washing away. The storm surge brought tsunami-like conditions as there appeared to be no end in sight to the water coming inland. Enormous waves consume whatever is left of downtown Fort Myers as the power of Mother Nature is unleashed. It looks like the end of the world for Fort Myers as the hurricane winds continue to batter the historic town. The video ends as the water is subsiding, with a brown tint left over the lens of the camera, giving everything an eerie glow. There are some notable landmarks now visible once again, including concrete structures together with a hedgerow and a few palm trees, but nothing is as it was before, with much of the immediate area appearing beyond recognition. The once grand palm trees are now frayed and the beachside roadway is covered in sand and debris that has been brought ashore by Ian's incredible power. It is an apocalyptic scene for the residents of Fort Myers, some of whom must know by now that they may never return to the place they once called home. As for the family whose red wooden home was washed away, a GoFundMe page has been set up for them. We have confirmed via family that the people who were staying in this house at the time of the storm somehow were able to make it out alive even after floating away. The storm chasers who shot the video told DailyMail.com. It is an apocalyptic scene for the residents of Fort Myers, some of whom must know that they may never return to the place they once called home. A shot from Google Street View taken in June 2022 shows how the place used to look before the storm struck. As for the family whose red wooden home was washed away, a GoFundMe page has been set up for them. A destroyed 7-Eleven store is shown in the wake of Hurricane Ian on Monday in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. FElizabeth D'Onofrio and Sean Halliday ride their bikes past a destroyed RV in the wake of Hurricane Ian on Monday in Fort Myers Beach. A home lies in ruins in the wake of Hurricane Ian on Monday in Fort Myers Beach. Residents gawk at the damage to their community on Manasota Key in Charlotte County, Florida. Decimated coastal towns and submerged homes are only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the catastrophic loss caused by the violent weather front last week. Resident Judy Hicks is embraced by Project DYNAMO rescuer Bryon Wheeldon, before she is taken off Sanibel Island, in the wake of Hurricane Ian. A broken section of the Pine Island Road and destroyed houses in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian in Matlacha, Florida. The death toll has reached 100 in Florida, according to officials. 6 days after Hurricane Ian cut a swath of destruction across Florida and the Carolinas as one of the strongest storms ever to hit the U.S. mainland, officials are still assessing the damage. On Monday, the desperate search for Hurricane Ian survivors continued as the mounting death toll reached at least 104 after the torrent caused an estimated $60 billion in damage. Fort Myers Beach residents were warned that they may not be able to return to their waterlogged homes for months because of the devastation blighting the coastal community. Insurers assessing the damage to properties ransacked by the flooding and winds are bracing for a multi-billion-dollar hit after Florida's streets were turned into rivers and houses were engulfed by the raging Category 4 storm. Decimated coastal towns and submerged homes are only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the catastrophic loss caused by the violent weather front last week. So far, more than 1,600 locals have been rescued. According to weatherman Cameron Hardin, residents on Fort Myers Beach could be homeless for months as authorities aren't even close to finishing shifting through the wreckage nearby. Lee County officials also said there will be power outages in the area for at least the next 4 weeks. The current number of fatalities is only expected to grow as rescue teams dive in and assess the shattered towns submerged by Ian's fury, while 583,342 people are still in darkness after the hurricane obliterated power lines. Depleted survivors on Ground Zero Fort Myers, which was obliterated by the 10-foot storm surge, were forced to escape the aftermath on foot, while clear-up teams rummaged street by street through the shocking debris. The eye-watering projection includes estimated wind, storm surge, and inland flood losses resulting from Ian's landfalls in both Florida and South Carolina, risk modeling firm Verisk said. A sign posted on a vehicle reads 2 dead as members of the City of Miami, Florida Task Force 2 search and rescue team work on checking homes for victims in the wake of Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. A member of the City of Miami, Florida Task Force 2 search and rescue team checks homes for victims in the wake of Hurricane Ian. Sand and debris line a street in the wake of Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. A home lies in ruins in the wake of Hurricane Ian on Monday in Fort Myers Beach. The storm made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, causing extensive damage along the coast as rescue crews continued the search for survivors on Monday in Fort Myers Beach. Edgar Soriano wades through water in his neighborhood after picking up items from his home which was flooded by rain from Hurricane Ian. A home burns after Hurricane Ian passed through the area on September 29, 2022 in Sanibel, Florida. Estimations by the insurance industry believe that Ian has caused $60 billion in damage. Wreckage piled up at the Bay Mobile Park in San Carlos Island after the passing of the Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. 2 men motor a boat past a stranded car to pick up items from a home that was flooded by rain from Hurricane Ian. Slide Me the Sanibel Causeway is seen before and after Hurricane Ian, which destroyed the bridge span in at least 5 places. The causeway is the only link between the Fort Myers mainland and Sanibel and Captiva Islands. However, the estimate range, the lower end of which was $42 billion, does not include elements such as losses to the National Flood Insurance Program and any potential impacts of litigation or social inflation that could lead to a total insured industry loss of $60 billion. The death toll from Hurricane Ian climbed past 100 on Monday as embattled residents in Florida and the Carolinas grappled with a recovery expected to cost tens of billions of dollars. According to officials, there have been 100 deaths recorded in Florida, and 4 more in North Carolina. A total of 54 deaths have been recorded in Lee County, which bore the brunt of Ian's wrath as the deadly storm made landfall last week. Charlotte County tallied 24 deaths, and 22 more across 7 other Floridian counties. It's believed that the majority of the deaths were by drowning amid Hurricane Ian's surge, as well as some vehicle and roofing accidents. Of the 4 fatalities recorded in North Carolina, 3 were related to vehicle accidents and 1 was from carbon monoxide poisoning caused by generator usage. Emergency responses were forced to grind to a halt last week while the storm continued to plummet Floridians, but work was underway Monday morning to relieve towns still cut off by the hurricane. A wind-blown camper trailer rests on a passenger car along a highway in Punta Gorda, Florida. An aerial image shows views of the Fort Myers area in the wake of Hurricane Ian, which devastated the surrounding areas. Rescuers saved pets from residents' flooded homes last week after streets were turned to rivers in Hurricane Ian's wrath. Horrific wreckage caused by Ian in San Carlos Island, as one car with a banged-up windscreen nearly tips into the water. The full scale of the devastation is now coming into focus, days after Hurricane Ian tore into the coastline as one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the United States. The roof of an apartment building blown off and destroyed in Daytona Beach, Florida. The catastrophic loss documented at Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Roofs have caved in on residents' homes as storm surge submerged the coastland landscape. Additionally, an estimated 583,342 homes and businesses were still without power in Florida early on Monday after Hurricane Ian crashed across the state last week. About 1% of the total industry loss will come from the impacts of Ian's South Carolina landfall, Verisk said.